and here we go.
There's the W. Here's ignition.
Roger roll, Atlantic. Doubling up.
Did it just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, it sure looks like a perfect flow.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
We did have an observation.
Equalizer.
343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers fly!
Bingo! Right in the center.
Where's Jacqueline? There it is!
That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No!
Oh my god.
Yikes. You bet. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Good morning and welcome to the Space Coast, where SpaceX is preparing to launch another group of 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites into orbit with Starlink Group 10-47. I am D-Wise. I am your host for this mission, but of course, I am not alone. Joining me on the broadcast here this morning is the one and only Ryan Weber. Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, D. I got a couple of fun things I've been working on recently, but yeah, we're here to watch a Starlink launch. It feels a little I don't know what's the word. It feels a little ordinary because of the launch that happened a few days ago, but it also doesn't because we don't get Starlink launches as much as we used to anymore. You know, it's kind of like an in between. I don't know if that's just me.
No, I definitely agree with you. Things have slowed down on the Space Coast side of things a lot, and now we had Flight 12 here, and so there's a lot going on. But you know, it's another mission. There's a rocket vertical on the pad, so it is an exciting time. And speaking of an exciting time, Jerry is out there in the field, also on comms, but providing the views for us this morning. Jerry, how are you doing out there?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. I was out here setting up, and it's a beautiful morning out here until it decided to rain, and it put a little hamper on things, but the rain is cleared up. It's a beautiful morning. There's almost no clouds suddenly, and it's looking great for this on-time launch here.
Absolutely. And of course, behind the scenes, pushing the buttons, pulling all of the levers to put together the stream today is the one and only Jay Keegan. So I guess to start things off, let's start by talking about the booster, because supporting today's mission is booster B1078, and this will be its 28th mission. It has previously supported launches including Crew 12, O3B, mPOWER B, USSF 124, AST BlueBird 1 through 5, Nusantara Lima, and a number of Starlink missions. No need to go through that full list. A bunch of Group 6 missions, some Group 12 missions, and some Group 10 missions. But of course, today there are 29 more Starlink V2 minis heading up on a northeast trajectory along the East Coast, and they are joining that Group 10 shell of satellites. This will be SpaceX's 670th launch overall, and their 61st of the year. And I guess at this point that one of those, I guess that 60th launch, oh wait, we did have a Vandy. I was going to say we've had one Starship launch in there to complement the Falcon 9s and Falcon Heavies. But it is an exciting time as we are counting down towards that liftoff here in just over 48 minutes from now. Now, there's a lot of stuff before we can get to that point, including the whole fueling process. So, Ryan, do you want to go into some of the steps we expect to see ahead of us here?
Yeah. We're gonna start seeing go for fueling is around T-minus 38 minutes or so. That's when the launch director verifies go for propellant load. Next up will be the start of propellant load around T-minus 35 minutes or so. Then they'll get into stage 1 LOX load, then to stage 2 RP1 load, stage 1 RP1 load, and then much later on, once after they chill down the strong back at our favorite T minus 20 minute and 20-second vent, they will start stage 2 LOX load, and then they'll go into Falcon 9 engine chill, the strong back to retract. They'll finish prop load on both stages. They'll press the tanks, and then Falcon 9 will go into startup. We'll press tanks after that, and then it'll go for launch. It's we've been through Falcon 9 a lot. It gets fun. I always have to double check my countdowns for Falcon 9 after I follow Starship as much as I do, because I don't follow Falcon 9 as much as other people would be. But it's still a rocket. It's still fun. And you know what I was thinking? There are now 2 different rockets that have launched Starlink V2 minis. There's been Falcon 9 and now Starship. It's kind of weird to say that, but yeah.
Absolutely, and it'll be really interesting to see once Starship really starts taking some of the cadence here from Falcon 9. We've seen that cadence drop a bit, but once it's flying the vast majority of the satellites, what's that going to do to the Falcon 9 launch cadence? I mean, it's going to have to drop dramatically.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I wonder if I guess all Starlink is going to move over to Starship once they get their cadence up on Starship, which is going to be a little ways away. But once they do that, it's like Falcon 9 has then got its customer payloads, it's got Dragon, and it's got USSF missions, because Starship is a long, long way away from ever doing national security space launch missions. So Falcon 9 still has its uses, and it'll still be around for a bit. But Starlink is going to be one of those things that it's not going to be doing anymore, because there comes a point in which the V2 minis aren't going to cut it anymore, and they need their V3 sats up there, and Starship's the only one that can do that.
So in line with that, John was wondering how many more launches until Starlink is done, and I think it's going to be hard to say that Starlink will ever be fully done, because they're going to continue evolving it. I mean, as they continue to move towards Starship launched satellites, that's going to continue to change the game, and they're going to also have to continue filling out, because these are low Earth orbit satellites. It's not like they're geostationary satellites, so they're potentially going to have a shorter time frame, and as satellites are inevitably lost with this many, they're going to have to launch the occasional mission just to fill out those missing satellites, in addition, of course, to increasing their capacity to support as many customers as they want to have. But I mean, if we want to spitball until how many launches until we think Starlink would be quote unquote done, I mean, if we feel pretty close in some ways and a long way off in others, don't you think?
Yeah, done. If we're talking done with Starlink, I would say once the network is fully filled out. But the problem is Earth isn't the only network they're doing. You gotta remember they're doing Earth, so all the V2 minis and older V1 V.1 sats, but 1.5 sats, which I think almost all of those are gone at this point. I don't remember though. But basically, once all the Falcon 9 launch sats re-enter, all those are getting replaced with V3 sats, and probably eventually a V4 once they start flying V3 sats a lot and they learn a way to make it better. So then you're gonna have Starlink missions with propellant aggregation and with TLI burns, because they're gonna do Starlink constellation around the moon, and then you'll likely have Starlink missions with Mars injection burns to do a Mars constellation as well. And who knows what other planets they're going to do it on, because you do like tight beam laser links between the planets for comms, and using Starlink constellations. Like, I don't know if you'll ever be able to classify Starlink launches as ever done. I don't think it'll ever be done. Truly.
Yeah, it's especially if they are really going for that million Starlink satellites. That's going to be quite a long ways off, and I mean, it makes sense to continue building their customer base, whether it's here in the US, around the world, and to support some of the more dense areas that might have other options, but people like to have, whether it's an RV internet they can take with them that they can set up at home, just making sure that they can make use of that internet. And we've seen even, I think in the last 2 or so weeks, there have been some price increases rolling out for Starlink. And so, I mean, Starlink is being used to fund so much of the development and work here. And of course, there's so many launches as a result of all of these customers.
It's gonna be interesting to see how long it takes them to fill out a lot of this stuff. And it all depends on when Starship truly gets online and when its cadence gets going, because it's still a little ways away from that. They still have a lot of work to do. That flight was incredibly successful, considering it was the first of a new version, new version of Starship. But they still got a lot of work to do, and especially with Starlink and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, it was far from perfectly flawless. Like, if we had
Yeah.
seen a full boost back burn and a booster ignition for a landing burn, and of course, if ship had been able to execute a relight, that would have been like ideal. But they made it a long way. The pad performed very well. The ship made it the whole way to its re-entry and splashdown. So, I mean, all things considered, it looked really, really good. But it's gonna be a minute until they are catching booster and until they are catching ship, and that's really the point that SpaceX wants to be at, to make sure that they are making full use of the reusability that Starship was completely designed around. Now, Ryan, we've been here for a few minutes. We've got a few minutes to go until they get into that poll and verify go for propellant load. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the recovery vessels out for this mission?
Yeah, so for booster recovery, of course, well, there's only one drone ship left, since just read the instructions is now relegated to eventually transporting probably tanks for Slick 37 as well as 39As. They still got tanks for those, and for starships and boosters. So the only drone ship left on the East Coast is a Shortfall Gravitas ASOG. So that's going to be the drone ship for any mission going forward, unless it's an RTLS. Today's fairing recovery is Bob. This one is going to be flying northeast, flying parallel to the U.S. East Coast. For the full payload for this thing, you're looking at around 17 tons, which is kind of around where it is for 29 Starlink V2 minis. Yeah, it's kind of stinks because literally you don't have to guess what drone ship it is anymore. It's kind of obvious which one it is now because there's only one. So it's kind of depressing.
Yeah, it is definitely a whole lot more predictable here on out. And Gabriel GG is actually wondering if we should see more RTLS missions with the Starlink Falcon 9 cadence slowing down. And I don't know if I would necessarily say more RTLS missions, but perhaps RTLS missions making up a greater proportion of the number of launches.
I don't, because to do RTLS for a Starlink, you'd have to lose a decent amount of Starlinks. I forget exactly what their payload capacity is on an RTLS. I think it brings it down like a solid 12 tons or something like that. They lose a decent amount. I think with one drone ship, you're just going to see Starlink V2 mini launches with the single drone ship. So that's what, every 4 days or so? It usually takes them to do a turnaround minimum. But they've been doing the Starlink missions every like 6, it feels like. I think, and then of course, customer payloads that require it, that'll be that, so which means a Starlink will have to get delayed unless they decide to do an RTLS mission and lose payload on it. We know Dragon missions can do RTLS, and of course, any lighter customer missions can do it, but it really, really slows the cadence down when you send a drone ship out and bring it back, and it's like a 4-day turnaround at least between launches, and they've been taking a little bit longer to do that. So I don't think we'll see too many more TLSs, not unless they want to lose payload capacity. But then again, who knows? Maybe they want to launch a bunch of Starlinks in succession, and they all land them back on landing pad 40, right next to the pad. So maybe they do that. We'll have to
Yeah, I
wait.
mean it's a very different view seeing the rocket return so close to where it launched from, and we are under that T-minus 38-minute mark where LD would have verified go for launch. So of course we're going to be keeping out a close eye for all those signs of frost forming on the booster, showing that they are in fact go for propellant load and they have begun loading, and that their T0 is locked in for this morning. But we have a comment saying, watching from Cocoa Beach for my wife and my very first launch. Not as exciting as Starship, but exciting for us. Thank you for your coverage. And I just want to say that's super exciting. I mean, watching a first launch, I mean, every launch is exciting. And I mean, if you want to watch a launch, you absolutely should. And we have a video resource. So if you want to watch a launch, you can reference it for where you can go. Cocoa Beach, of course, is an excellent, excellent location for any one of these missions. And I think it's so easy with so many launches happening when you're local to forget about the value of just going out there and seeing your very first launch. So I just want to say, congrats on that. That is super exciting, and I know we are all here rooting for a wonderful view and mission for y'all today. Now we are getting to that 36-minute mark, and so we are just over a minute away from propellant loading. Ryan, do you want to refresh that timeline and when we can expect to see frost, perhaps?
I guess it's going to be kind of dependent on weather and, of course, availability to see the rocket. But we probably should see frost with prop load setting around 35 minutes. So within 45 seconds or so, give it like 10, 15 minutes, and we should probably start to see frost. It also is a little bit harder on the older boosters because you get so much soot built up that sometimes it's hard to see the frost on the side of the vehicle because it just kind of covers it up. But I'd give it like 10, 15 minutes from now. We definitely should start seeing frost, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope by about the 30-minute mark, it'll be hard to see, but perhaps we'll get some hints of frost down on the bottom of the booster, and specifically some condensation forming in the air. But now we're dealing with a very backlit launch this early morning. Jerry, it's an early morning out there on the Space Coast. I don't know if you can be on comms right now, but if you can, it's an early morning out there, huh?
Yeah, definitely. It was up very, very early this morning. Came all the way out here, and yeah, it was dark, and now it's light out, and yeah, it's a nice morning though. The sun is very bright and low on the horizon though, so yes, it's very backlit. It's a little bit gonna be a little bit difficult to see. I was extremely surprised of how far I had to stop down the camera. It's been a while since I've had to do it quite like this, but it's a nice morning other than that though. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you even said that the flag at the press site is at half-mast, of course, for Memorial Day today.
Yeah, and it is. It's a very nice day out here. It was as the sun has come up and the air has started to move around. It's picked up a little bit. There's hardly any wind out here, if that's a consideration at all. But this morning it was almost completely flat. But now it's definitely moving a little bit, but nothing too crazy out here this morning.
Yeah, and speaking of that weather, of course, the 45th Weather Squadron does the launch mission execution forecast, and this mission is 85% go, with that 50% probability of violation just being for the cumulus clouds rule. Now, they also have additional risk criteria they look at, including booster recovery weather and solar activity. Those aren't factored into the 85%, but those are both low. So, I mean, this is definitely one of the better weather predictions you can get for a launch here today, especially in Florida, especially this time of year. Like, weather becomes iffy in the summer in Florida, and so you see the launches avoiding the afternoon time frame, which is gonna have thunderstorms. So it is looking good weather-wise for a launch today here in about 33 minutes now. Jerry, I'm sure you'll be keeping a close eye on the booster for any sign of frost, so definitely give us a shout as soon as you see any.
Yeah, I'll be sure to do that, and it's definitely a little hard. Even me looking at the camera and looking over there, there's not a ton of contrast in this environment. It's almost easier to look with your eyes, but it's a little hazy out there, very backlit, so it'll be a difficult spot this morning.
Absolutely, but we will be keeping a close eye on that. Mikey was wondering, with this launch going northeast, and yeah, it's going northeast, basically following up the east coast. Where is the furthest west someone could see this on the east coast? Well, it will depend on how north you are, for certain. If you're in Florida, like Orlando might be able to see it if the weather cooperates, and even farther west out to Tampa could potentially see it, but by the time it's way high in the atmosphere for certain missions, specifically ones around sunset or sunrise, you might be able to see it from even like western Pennsylvania and a bit farther west. You can see it from a long distance, but that will all be dependent on the lighting and weather. It's not going to be super easy looking into the sun this morning. But I mean, I've watched launches from as far south as the Everglades from the Cape. And, you know, if you get lucky, you can see these from a long distance away. So if you're on the East Coast, perhaps give it a chance. And getting to see even just a little speck of light in the sky is a pretty cool thing. Now, there's that trajectory, but these Starlink missions, we just had Starship. I think we're getting a few questions here about Starship. And of course, if you have questions, be sure to @ NASA Spaceflight or @ NSF in chat. That'll bring them into our panel, and we will be sure to talk about it on stream. I want to thank Bideford with a $50 super chat. Thank you so much, Bideford. It is always a pleasure seeing your name in chat, saying, Happy Memorial Day to all, no matter what country you're from. Thank you, NSF, for covering today's launch, and thank you, Bideford, for the support. It is always, always a pleasure. We had Lemon Space 2, who is wondering how many flights until the first Starship Starlink deploy. I love Falcon and all, but it's getting old. Well, they're going to have to be fully orbital for a true Starlink mission. And so I think that guarantees we're at least 3 flights away. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, because they didn't get their relight in for Flight 12. So they need the relight to demonstrate their ability to deorbit with the new propulsion system and with Raptor 3. Even though they completed it on Block 2 or whatnot, that's not the same. It's a new engine, it's a redesigned propulsion system, so they have to demonstrate it on the new vehicle. So that's at least Flight 13 that they got to do that in. And then Flight 14 would be a question mark on if Flight 13 is perfectly successful. Are they allowed to try to do a catch of a ship, or are they allowed to go to orbit? That's entirely up to whether or not they're ready and whether or not the FAA will allow them to come back from orbit, because there's a whole thing that happens there. They need to be sure that that size of a vehicle will safely come back where they want it to, because you can't have a 52-meter tall, 9-meter wide stainless steel vehicle with a heat shield on one side coming back where you don't want it to. Can't have that, so you need to be able to control that. I wouldn't be surprised if the first full Starlink mission is until like Flight 15, which would likely be end of year.
Hey, Ryan, hold on one second,
yeah.
because down at the bottom of that visibility, just behind the trees, there is absolutely
Ooh.
frost forming on the booster, and that means because these are super chilled propellants and SpaceX doesn't have the ability to hold, that SpaceX is locked in to that T0 in 27 minutes and 50 seconds from now.
It's good news for us. There you go. We're on track. Like to hear that. It's always gets fun with these Starlinks when all of a sudden it's like, is there frost? Is there frost? Oh, there's a delay. Oh, well, wait, hey, it's working. There we go. It's always fun when that happens. And just to finish the thought, but yeah, I think it'll be like flight 15 or something like that. They got a ways to go. There's a lot of work to be done.
Now, this is a Starlink mission and a Falcon 9 mission, but we're getting the Starship questions in, so let's. I guess we haven't really talked too much Starship since the launch because that was Friday now. It's been 3 days. Is that right? Time isn't real around Starship missions. Let's be real here. But when are you expecting Flight 13 and rollouts? I'm gonna say I'm not expecting Flight 13 until I think it has to be a minute still. Late July, early August, potentially would be my guess.
I think late July is the absolute earliest, but I've been thinking more mid to late August. Because you got to think on. So Booster 20 hasn't even cryoed yet. That needs to go out for cryo, and I think it'll be either by the end of this month or early June. Ship 40 just needs its static fire and then its final pre-flight. So Ship 40 is probably going to be finished and waiting in the bay for 20 to be ready to go for full stack testing, which I wouldn't be surprised if they do like a tanking test this time around just to verify things. I don't think they'll do a full wet dress unless they change the countdown or something. I would expect a tanking test at most. If not, they just send it. We'll have to see. It's kind of depends on what they want to do. But I mean, you look at probably early June for the cryo of 20, and then you're talking early July maybe for static fire, and then well, it depends on what mods they have to do, I guess, between cryo and static fire, because they're gonna pour over the data from 19. This is a brand new vehicle, clean sheet design. They want to make sure they get it right. The last thing they want to start doing, especially with an IPO coming and with all these new vehicles, they don't want to just send it. They want to do some hot fixes and then send it. I bet they want to make sure that everything's going to be good to go, rock solid. So they'll take time to make sure everything's right. And I wouldn't be surprised if Flight 13 doesn't happen until mid-end of August. Which, I mean, then you got to look at Flight 14 and on. They're not going to have a lot of flights this year with Starship, but the point is, if they only have like 3 or 4 flights, but they're all incredibly successful, that's where it's like, well, you can excuse the cadence issue if all the flights work very well and and you move the program ahead, because I got to say the amount of time they spent on initial Block 3 and they got, and how well Flight 12 exceeded my expectations entirely. I expected Booster to blow up on boost back and the ship to have to fail the ascent burn or for that matter have an issue with its new reaction control system, and it made it all the way through. And I'm amazed Booster didn't blow up on that boost back. I'm actually shocked it made it as far as it did. That exceeded my expectations, and as much as SpaceX would have liked it to be better, it went relatively well for a brand new vehicle. Basically, it's hard to understate how new all that was.
Yeah, and Starship is so important for the Artemis program and like the space program in the US moving forward, I think. So making sure everything is done properly at this point. Like, it was one thing in the early days seeing the launches have their testing program endings, but this one we're really at the point where it needs to start working. Now, we are at the T-minus 23-minute mark, but in just a few minutes here, we should be seeing a large amount of venting from the vehicle, won't we, Jerry?
Yes, we definitely will. That is what we would like to call the best vent, or the T-minus 20-minute and 20-second vent that the Falcon 9 is kind of famous for at this point. That it expels a large amount of propellant out of the erector here, and so it's very visible in this sort of early morning condensation and humidity. So it'll be very visible out the side here, and it'll be a very good indicator about which way the wind is blowing. If there's any, I almost certainly guarantee from how the wind is here, it'll go almost straight down the side of the rocket just to the ground, because the wind is very, very light this morning.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. Sometimes we get to see that condensation make its way through the tower and disperse that way. But that is coming up, and then we will also have that loading start on the second stage. Once everything is cooled down from that vent, because of course they're just cooling down the lines, making sure it's not going to go through any sort of thermal shock. So at T-minus 16 minutes, that stage 2 LOX load will begin. At the 8-minute mark, we should see it go into engine chill, and in the last minute of launch, they should be pressurizing for flight levels, doing final checks. At 45 seconds will be the final go for liftoff from the launch director, and at 3 seconds we will get the ignition, and then 0 for the all-important liftoff of today's Starlink mission. All right, we've got a lot of Starship questions coming up in the queue. This is a Falcon 9 mission, so I do want to talk about Falcon 9, but I think it's important to tie in, because Starship is such an important part moving forward, and it'll be working alongside Falcon 9 here. So Captain Kirsch is saying, I believe Falcon 9 will continue on with Starlink because Starship is going to be busy putting data satellites in orbit.
We got to make those data satellites first.
Yeah, and I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if who knows if the V3s will have something of a different role in the Starlink program. Like maybe they will complement each other for a while, but they're really moving towards the full reusability. And there's the start of that T-minus 20-minute vent here. Reasonably still air. So it's moving off to the left, but that is a wonderful sign that things are continuing to move smoothly in the count. Now, Natalie, all right, I'll address it. The huge explosion on the Starship. Yeah, that was expected. Like, when they're doing the splashdowns of the ship, they're going to have the propellants and everything on board. They're doing simulated landings, but of course the ocean doesn't have a catch tower to keep the ship vertical and held in place. So once they've gone through that full simulated sequence, yeah, it's going to fall over in the ocean, and it's going to, as we all saw, explode. And huge shout out to SpaceX for actually sharing that footage live, because
Yeah.
I mean we've seen bits and pieces and we've seen stuff after the fact, but this time they cut to multiple camera views. Even with the coming IPO and everything, like we got to see what happened live. They were not afraid to show it because it had been overall such a successful mission for the test program.
Yeah, it was. I'm really glad we got to see the actual like tip over and the explosion. Now, where you see the explosion happen in the nose cone, that's because the main tanks are mostly empty. You see it catch fire there because there's still residuals in the tank, but the main explosion came from the headers, what was left in them. So the headers are the ones that really detonated on that, or at least just kind of blew up. It was awesome to see that. The heat shield looked absolutely amazing. I believe if they had caught the thing and looked at it, I don't know if it would have been reusable per se, because a reusable heat shield is one of the hardest things to ever develop. It is the biggest problem they have for the program as a whole to solve. But I gotta say, 39 looked like an amazing amount of progress for that. That heat shield looked awesome compared to the last two flights. But then again, they didn't purposely take off a ton of tiles. It was the most completed heat shield that's flown since Ship 30, basically. That's when they stripped 30's heat shield and added a later layer of ablative after all of the burn throughs and issues on Ship 29. So it was an awesome flight. It was awesome to see it succeed that well. It's too bad they didn't do an in-space burn. But either way, it was incredibly successful. It ended in an explosion, yes, for both of the vehicles. But again, it's still a test program. It's a hardware-rich test program that SpaceX is trying to figure out how to do a fully reusable rocket, which no one has ever been able to do before, where both stages come back and are able to refly quickly. And they're making good progress. I mean, considering they've been at this, Starhopper flew for the first time, or at least static fired for the first time, a little over 7 years ago. Considering what they're trying to do, that's not bad. I know people have said, "Well, look what Apollo did in that time." It's like, yeah, they expended just about everything but the command module on Apollo. This one, they're recovering both stages. So, this is a massive difference there.
Absolutely. I mean, it's something unlike we've ever seen before on a whole different scale than we've seen before with Starship. But now, focusing back down on today's Starlink mission, for those who may just be joining us, this is Starlink Group 10-47. It is the launch of 29 more Starlink V2 mini satellites from Slick 40 in Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. This launch is going up on a northeast trajectory, somewhat just following the east coast. The booster supporting today's mission is B1078, and it will be the booster's 28th flight today. It's previously supported Crew 6, O3B mPOWER B, USSF 124, AST BlueBird 1 through 5, Nusantara Lima, and a number of Starlink missions. No need to go through all of those. The drone ship for today's mission, of course, at this point on the East Coast, it's a Shortfall of Gravitas. And then recovering the fairings for today's mission will be the fairing recovery vessel Bob. This is SpaceX's 670th launch overall and their 61st launch of the year, and their 9-month of the launch. Wow, I'm still tired.
Yeah, camera there, D.
I think I said ninth month of the launch, ninth launch of the month from SpaceX here. It is early. I'm still in Starbase from Starship Flight 12, so it was a bit of an extra early morning for me, but we appreciate the whole team being out here today. It's Ryan Weber on the stream with me, Jerry Pike out in the field, and the one and only Jay Keegan back there in the studio. So I do I do want to check in, Jerry. How's everything looking? Let's go over one more time. How is the weather? We saw the forecast, but what's it actually like out there in the field?
Yeah, the forecast was good, and like save for that really quite unexpected rain shower this morning, the weather is amazing out here. It's clear skies. Some that don't look like they would provide any sort of danger to the launch here. Directly overhead, it's perfectly clear blue skies, and the range security is out in the KSC turn basin here as well. I have eyes on a pretty sizable gator actually out there. It looks like a big one, so it's a average Florida morning.
Yeah, and so many of these launch areas are in wildlife areas because they require a large distance from the civilization, and so you can protect the wildlife for the vast majority of this land and use a bit for the launches. And so that means you will run into wildlife, whether it be gators, whether it be wild boar, whether it be the all too common mosquito. Like, there's going to be wildlife out and about. So if you're viewing these launches, do be mindful of those sorts of things. We are getting closer and closer to liftoff here this morning at T minus 12 and a half minutes now. Wow, these Starship questions keep on coming. If you have any Falcon 9 questions, definitely throw those in there. I'm glad to be providing Terran Interplanetary Club, Ryan and myself, absolutely glad to be providing some Starship analysis here on this stream, but we don't want to be too off topic.
I guess it's because I'm here, and also this is the first launch we're covering since we had a Starship flight. So, you know, I mean, and it was a pretty big one too, so that's probably why.
And there also hasn't been a flame trench to really dive deep into everything that happened since then, because I don't know. I don't know what SpaceX was thinking, but they had a conflicting time with flame trench for their launch.
Yeah, it was a little weird.
Righty. So, all right, Mikey, let's talk about it. Our favorite space sim, excluding Kerbal. Do you have a space sim that you use other than Kerbal here?
Space sim other than Kerbal. Does Stellaris count? It's not a space sim. I really don't have anything else. I've played a lot of Kerbal. Mostly, it's just other games wise. It's RTS or like FPS games. To be honest, at least for me.
Yeah, and I personally have to say Kerbal's really the only one that I've used, and I do not. It's not as if I play Kerbal extensively. It is somewhat limited here. Speaking of somewhat limited, our Flight 12 merch, whether it be patches, whether it be shirts, our Flight 12 merch is getting quite limited here. You can head on over to shop.nasaspaceflight.com to pick some of that up. But I mean, I've been rocking this Flight 12 shirt since February. It has been a great design to have, and very excited to have it out in the shop looking. Sorry. But a ton of different designs here from throughout the flight. You can get your patches. I think we're running low on patches and the new introduction of pins from this Flight 12 design. So if you want to get those, be sure to head on over to shop.nasaspaceflight.com and check them out.
It's a nice patch. I got one, and I got a T-shirt for it too. It's a nice one. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean the new design of the pad, I referenced it a bit in some of my tweets, but it does such a good job directing the plume where it needs to go, and it should make launch photography a good bit more predictable, even though the first one was like getting used to a new pad is one thing, but I think we can expect a ton of great shots of Starship V3 lifting off from the pad here. And in not too long a period of time, we're going to have that happening from the Cape. And so you can check out some of the prints from our photographers who were out here in the field from the launch. And man, it was a gorgeous mission. One day of scrub. I said the word.
You said the word.
I was
Eh.
referencing a different mission. It's fine.
It's fine. Fine.
You can
Not a
check
jinx.
out
It's fine.
our metal prints and our posters. The metal prints are really nice. They're an aluminum
Jerry yelling at you in the back
print.
channel.
To totally change the subject, over at the NSF shop. I can't believe I said the word.
How could you, DYs? How could you?
But we are under 8 minutes to launch. So that means they should be in engine chill down at this point. And we are getting closer and closer. Jerry, I think we have to send you off to focus on those camera views. Am I right?
Yeah, I will work on getting some final preps and everything sorted here, and appreciate it. And hopefully, we're looking forward to a good launch here in just under 7 minutes here.
Absolutely. We will see you on the other side of this thing. Now, Ryan, we don't have too many events coming up before the all too important liftoff. We've just got a few more events in the timeline before we see that happen, right?
Yeah, there's a couple more events. They have to top off both stages with propellant. Once that's completed, they'll partially retract the strong back. Falcon 9 will go into startup. They'll the auto sequence will engage. They will press the tanks, and once that happens, they'll be much ready. They'll getting ready close to launch. Launch director will verify go for launch at T minus 45 seconds. Of course, engine ignition, and then liftoff of Falcon 9, carrying 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites to orbit.
Absolutely. The booster will be landing downrange, so we won't see a boost back burn this time around, but they've really upped their efficiency on those recoveries, whether it be for RTLS missions, whether it be for the drone ship missions, to maximize the amount of payload that Falcon 9 can carry into space while totally reusing the first stage. So, Bideford says, I know one photographer who did some awesome shots. D, well, I don't actually have too many stills from this mission. I was really focused on video, so I don't actually have any prints in the shop from this one, but you can check them out from the other incredible photographers who were out here on site for the mission. Yeah, and you can blame me for that, but now we have the views from SpaceX. Look, it's early. I did not mean to let that word slip out.
I'm confident. I'm confident it'll be fine.
Yeah, look at that blue sky. Early morning sunrise.
Pressing for the start of Strombeck retract.
Yeah, nice early morning down in Florida. Got a Venti rocket getting close to Strongback retract here. This is the initial retract. It's not the full throwback. They disconnect the little claw arms you see around the top of the second stage there, and then they pull the retract away a little bit. That gets it clear of the rocket, so when they do go to liftoff, and they can easily throw back the retract all the way, and then that alongside the rocket lifting off disconnects all the quick disconnects. Basically, the Strongback retract is the same as seeing the booster quick disconnect, the ship twist disconnect, all disconnect, and then the ship QD arm swinging away as Starship lifts off. The Strongback is basically all that into one, and it kind of integrates it, because the Falcon 9 QDs are at the bottom. There's one for RP, one for LOX, and then of course there is the QD up for the second stage. So
yeah, and we are under 4 minutes now, getting closer to launch. When that launch happens, don't worry, we will be quiet so you can listen in to the rumble. Perhaps we'll get some of the VAB squeal for this mission. We will just have to wait and see. I love getting those sort of venting sounds as Falcon 9 gets closer to liftoff.
Indeed.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
Stage 1 LOX load complete. There you go. Good sign.
Absolutely.
Actually, that strong back is retracted. So they passed that point. Get close to startup in about a minute and a half.
If y'all are out for today's mission, we always say put down your phones. So be sure to keep your eyes on the skies. But if you happen to capture anything, also, we love to see the content you gather. So be sure to tag us on social media. We all want to take a look and see what everyone has managed to capture.
Stage 2 LOX load
including
is
down
complete.
from Stage 2 LOX load complete. All right. A minute and 40 seconds to go left in the count, so they need to bring tanks to flight pressure and get it into startup, final verification of go for launch, and then the engine ignition sequence. Not long to go yet. You can hear the birds out there at the press site.
Ground gas closeouts.
Nice serene.
Falcon 9 will be a bit louder than my alarm.
I hope so. Otherwise that's a really loud alarm. Should be into startup shortly here, if not already.
Of course, the SpaceX speed is a bit delayed from ours.
Falcon 9 has entered startup.
Here we go.
So those callouts coming just a little bit later than they will be on our own feed.
LD, go for launch.
All right. 30 seconds to go now until we have liftoff of Falcon 9 and Starlink 10-47. We'll be keeping a close eye on the base of the booster for that start of ignition. Ignition and liftoff of Starlink 10-47. Now let's listen in to the rumble from the press site. Wow! We're a minute 30 into flight now, so we are about a minute from main engine cutoff here. What a vapor cone on that
Indeed.
launch, and the backlit It had some gorgeous, gorgeous colors. You can see the exhaust plume starting to expand as it gets into thinner and thinner atmosphere above Florida. We are coming up soon here on the main engine cutoff and stage separation.
Main engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
There you go. Good stage
MVAC
set.
startup.
And ignition.
Always a gorgeous view watching stage 2 continue on away from the booster. The grid fins now extending as a booster reorients itself.
Fairing separation
Or
confirmed.
There we go with that fairing separation. So we've got a few minutes until the next event begins, which will be the entry burn startup at 6 minutes and 5 seconds after liftoff. That'll be a roughly 22-second burn. Then we will have our landing at 8 minutes and 23 seconds after liftoff, downrange on
Both
a
vehicles are on a
shortfall of
nominal
gravity.
trajectory.
Nominal.
Nominal. Always a great view. If you were in chat, I want to know if you saw that, if you heard that.
Always love seeing the RCS bursts. Always fun.
Absolutely. We are coming up towards the entry burn. We are a bit over a minute away from the start of that downrange. So perhaps someone can spot that if you're a bit farther north on the East Coast. You'll be able to look out over the ocean and see a speck in the sky, but that landing burn is too far downrange to really be visible from anywhere on land. But quite regularly, we get to see the reentry burn from the Cape. So be sure to keep your eye out for that if you are up for this morning's mission. So as we continue on, just a few more minutes around the a few more events around the T+ 8 minute mark. So that'll be the landing burn and landing, followed by the second stage cutoff at 8 minutes and 39 seconds. They do have
Both
another
vehicles
burn.
continue to follow a nominal trajectory.
And we should be coming up on the entry burn for booster here any moment now.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
I love how you can see the exhaust sort of change shape throughout the entry burn.
Supersonic retro propulsion, as EJ likes to call it.
And it's such a huge reorientation. I'm rarely looking at these views for Falcon 9 missions. So it's like
usually out there where Jerry is.
Yes.
You're not in here staring at the actual screen.
And so we should be coming up on the landing burn in just over a minute from now. So things are getting excited. I always love keeping a close eye on the grid fins. You can sometimes see bits of vapor forming on them, in addition, of course, to the RCS and the slight readjustments used to control booster on its reentry. There's some of that vapor forming on that left grid fin there. Should be coming up on landing burn.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Is that the drone ship between the left grid fin?
Yep. Yeah.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
And successfully landed
Stage 1 landing
for the booster on the Starlink 10-47 mission. The second stage will continue onward. They have another burn scheduled for T+52 minutes, but of course they are not planning to stay
shutdown.
alive. There we go. That's the second stage engine burn completed. They will be coasting for a long while.
Orbit insertion.
Wonderful. It's at the T+1 hour, 1 minute mark where they start to deploy those Starlink satellites. So there's some time before that, but we will, of course, have replays and the like here before that. We will not be live for the moment of Starlink deploy. But there is some support I need to thank in chat. Kay Louise, thank you very much for becoming a Pad Wrap member. These memberships really help support all the coverage that we do, and it would not be possible otherwise. I also want to thank Jamie for getting the Flight 12 collector's patch. Those are a really they're running low. They're running shockingly low. So if you want one, be sure to get them now while you can. All right. Here's a fun one that ties together Starship and Falcon 9. Zarin, I'm very sorry about the pronunciation. I don't know how to pronounce your name, is wondering if we slapped Raptor 3s to the bottom of Falcon 9, how many of them would we need to match the thrust or ISP of Merlin? That's a numbers question to throw at you. So take your time on that one.
What Merlin 1D full thrust is 845 kilonewtons.
And of course, this is ignoring the practical implications of the whole vehicle is not designed around the methane that Starship uses. It's designed around RP1. So practical limitations aside, it'd be a... Raptor's a powerful engine.
Yeah. Take about 3 Raptor 3s. To get the same, give or take. Yeah.
We would have a Falcon 3.
Or you just go full on Zenit and you put 4 on there, but Zenit is a single engine, which is the RD-171. But you basically put 4 Raptor 3s under Falcon 9, and then you're running you're running 1,000 tons of thrust on Falcon 9, which is kind of hilarious, to say the least. That would be funny. That'd be a pretty powerful Falcon 9. We'll just put it that way. I wonder how quick it would get to its max Q would probably be about the same as Super Heavy at that point. You'd probably get it within like 40 to 45 seconds or less.
And, this time around, Starship really hopped off the pad compared to version 2, compared to version 1 especially. Like, their thrust to weight ratio is significantly higher now. Now, October Sky is wondering, those grid fins towards the end, they're moving at a pretty low speed. So how fast do they actually have to be moving to be useful? Of course, like once the engine's lit, they've got the gimbal control and thrust control. So they've got that sort of control in addition to grid fins. But do you have an idea when they sort of lose effect?
I don't know the exact speed. That is an aerodynamic. That's a drag equation you'd have to work out with how much lift or drag that those create to how much velocity you are in the mass of the vehicle to understand if they can actually still impart a force to actually change the direction of the vehicle. I would suspect that once they partially get into that landing burn, once they've slowed down enough, those grid fins are basically useless. They're still turning to try to steer the rocket because basically once that landing burn ignites, Falcon 9 is running it's running the gimbals, it's running the RCS, and it's running the grid fins in order to try to get it on target. It doesn't disable one system. We have seen in the how not to land a rocket booster video how the RCS was still running, trying to save one booster from falling, and it couldn't. They still run all control systems, like flight control systems, to be able to get that thing on target. Whether or not it can help a lot, they just run it anyways, because at that point, why not? If you're gonna, who cares if you run out of RCS, the rocket's landing, and the grid fins, all they do is run off the RP1 for hydraulic fluid, so that is what it is. I don't know the exact speed. That's a calculation you'd have to do or ask SpaceX. That's in the design specifications of Falcon 9, and I don't know those. So
Yep.
Not that deep.
Well, we now have some time, so let's take a look back at this launch through our replays, and let's also bring in Jerry, who of course was out there in the field. Jerry, how was that launch?
Yes, that was quite a spectacular launch. A good VAB squeal, good vapor cone, good liftoff here. The sun went behind a cloud right at liftoff, so it made it much easier to track. So I wasn't squinting and covering my eyes as I was looking up into the sky a little bit to angle the camera. So that helped tremendously, or the track might not have gone as smooth as it could have. So other than that, it's a perfectly calm morning here. The wind's picking up a little, which is nice. It's a good breeze out here, so beautiful launch.
Yeah, and these first two views are coming from our fleet cams down in Port Canaveral with our partner Rusty's, where they are located. So, some clouds in the sky, but a gorgeous blue one, and you can see it break between those clouds there, and I expect it will break above that cloud. I guess it was just a slightly inconvenient cloud location, but of course, it worked out well from your location, and we got that track. Thank you so much for that. It's always great to see you. I mean, wherever you are on the Space Coast, it's worth looking up. But moving over to the press site, breaking above the tree line with some of our robotic cameras. Very nice. Gary, is that you in the bottom left of this shot?
I'm trying to zoom in and look and see. That's either me or Adam. It's a little blurry. That might not be, but it's hard to tell. But I'm zooming in on it, and it's not sure of the exact angle. It's one of the two.
Yep, as Falcon 9 lifts off over the Kennedy Space Center press site. Always great to see. Now this next one, I believe, is controlled by a remote operator. Large team, and we're always very grateful for people all around the world for supporting these tracks. Like, these are not easy to do when you are on site, and we have people all around the world tracking.
Indeed.
Look at that, just some thin upper clouds. Absolutely gorgeous morning. Look at that vapor cone. Oh my gosh. Jerry, I'm looking forward to seeing the close-up track of that vapor cone again, because the colors it had were absolutely stunning with the sun breaking through it. And there we have the trail formed. That is just wonderful. And I said the S word, and it didn't jinx it. I'm just calling that
You
out.
did not jinx it. You did not.
Now, this one should have audio, and this is Jerry's track, so I think we will let everyone listen in once again. Vapor cone starting. Wow. I mean, it's really a rainbow of color when it expands there.
I can't wait to see more Starship vapor cones too. I think it was the Flight 10 that had a really, really awesome one. You got to get that right atmospheric conditions to get one, and it's always awesome when you get a really good one like that.
Yeah, Jerry, and how did that vapor cone look to your naked eye in the field?
Yeah, it was definitely very noticeable, very bright, and very prominent up here. Just like a quick flash that kind of just shows up and catches your attention. But then as soon as you look, it's gone. So you really have to be looking quite intently to kind of catch it in real time. But it's definitely very obvious in replays. Obviously, it's a really cool sight, and especially in this morning sun with like a little bit of a cloud layer overhead. It's perfect conditions to have that vapor cone as the Falcon 9 goes supersonic.
Yeah, it sure was. So, Jerry, I want to thank you as we start to wrap for getting us these views from the field going out there this early morning. It was a good one. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it definitely was. This was a good, nice launch out here. It's been a minute since I've been out here at the press site to see a launch this close in person. So glad that I could make it out here and bring you some views this morning.
Joining me on commentary, the one and only Ryan Weber. Thank you so much for joining and providing all the excellent info.
Yeah, no problem. It's always fun to come on and do a non-Starship launch or test, you know? Well, it's a Falcon 9 launch, not a test, but yeah, you know what I mean. Anyways, yeah, I'm gonna go have some fun putting together a new computer, and you all can, we'll see you all next time.
Operating, pushing the buttons, pulling the levers has been the one and only Jay Keegan. And of course, I have been your host for today's mission. It's been a minute since I've hosted, so sorry if I was a bit rough there. D-Wise, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll see you all next time.
And here we go.
There's the W. Here's ignition.
Doubling up.
Did it just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, Gino.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, it sure looks like a perfect world.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
We did have an observation. 343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers, fly!
Bingo! Right in the center.
Where's Jacqueline? There it is!
That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No! Oh my god.
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.